This is not going to be the most fun topic to cover, but apparently some House Republicans are deciding to be transphobic. I know, shocker. Transphobic Republicans. What a weird world we live in. But somehow we are back on transgender people in sports as a topic for some reason. The whole reason that we're even here is because Joe Biden attempted to bring in some very pro-trans policies, both in protections for bathroom bills and also in letting them come back into the military. However, because of that, now there are Republicans who, solely because Biden is being pro-trans, have decided that the party line has to be that Republicans are anti-trans. So, what does this mean? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. A congressional Republican has introduced a federal bill that would ban transgender girls and women from participating in school sports. We're back here again. Republican Greg Steube from Florida. Oh God, of course, he's a Florida man. Has introduced H.R. 426, which would threaten federal funding to state and or local athletics organizations if they allow any person whose sex is male to participate in an athletic program or activity that is designed for women or girls. Now, let's ignore the fact that if somebody is on puberty blockers or if somebody is indeed taking hormones, then that does substantially change the way their body operates in these sports, and it just fucking stupid stuff. But the bill does not describe exactly how schools should determine what someone's sex assigned at birth is. It just vaguely states that sex shall be recognized based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. Okay, so I guess people who are XXY or Klinefelters or what have you are all completely screwed in this scenario, as some of those things might not match up the way you think. In a press release, Steube touted support for the United States Confederate Conference of Catholic Bishops, a Christian organization run by men that has already attacked President Joe Biden for supporting further expansion of abortion and contraception, because so many of these levels of bigotry always go hand in hand. Because we are dealing with bigotry right now, though, can we please get a trans rights in chat? Apparently, he left his trans rights at home, so we need to go ahead and give it to him. Please and thank you, but I will continue. The bill, which is unlikely to come up for a vote in the Democratic House, would be a direct challenge to Biden's administration's position that anti-LGBTQ discrimination is already illegal under federal law, and that transgender people have the same rights to participate in sports like anyone else. In a sweeping executive order signed on Wednesday, Biden expanded protections for LGBTQ people and specifically cited discrimination against transgender people in schools. Children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to a restroom, a locker room, or school sports, Biden's executive order said. Steube introduced the same legislation in the U.S. House early last year, and Representative Tulsi Gabbard introduced a similar bill later in the year. Senator Kelly Loeffler, not anymore, introduced similar legislation in the U.S. Senate. In 2019 and 20, a wave of Republicans in state legislatures all over the country introduced bills to ban transgender girls and women from sports. And the Idaho Republicans succeeded in passing one such bill, but it's currently being challenged in a federal court. The Idaho law allows for female students' athletic gender to be challenged and requires the athlete to undergo a medical exam to prove it. That doesn't sound invasive as fuck at all, does it? Does it? A doctor, the law says, will have to examine the athlete's genitalia, hormones, and DNA to make a determination of their sex. That's a fucking yikes. That is an absolute fucking yikes from me. I'm sorry, if you're a doctor and you're trying to get into my pants just so you can determine whether or not I can throw a fucking ball, I will kick you in your goddamn nutsack. That's my genital evaluation of you. Stubbs' 2021 bill does not say how state and local sports governing bodies should define or check an athlete's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. All the bill does is threaten their federal funding if they don't. Well, then, maybe some doctors who have an ounce of decency will just say, yeah, I checked, they're fine, let them throw the goddamn ball, fuck it. The bill contains no language banning states or schools from using forced genital or DNA exams on girls and women who want to participate in school sports. His bill also doesn't have similar requirements for boys or men who want to participate in sports, meaning that genital exams will only be for girls and women. Imagine that. Imagine those exams only existing for one sex, one gender. Why? Why would you only include one? Why are you only attacking the women?
That squirrel.
Why is it just trans women that you have an issue with? Also, thank you very much for the $50 donation, Jack. Trans rights are human rights. Period. Full stop. It doesn't matter what you say. Trans people are human, therefore their rights are human rights. His bill does not have similar requirements for boys or men. Transgender equality advocates argue that the entire point of the legislation is just to deny that transgender women are women. Well, of course. There's no denying that it is easier, generally speaking, for a trans man to pass than it is a trans woman. This is already a problem we have to deal with in general. I'm not going to get into the particulars of the ways in which people use to clock people so that they can say, you're not passing or you're not passing. That's not what this conversation is about. I'm just going to point out that it's already difficult for people in that situation to feel comfortable in their own skin. And this just feels like one more way to invalidate them. This is fucking gross. Not only does this only affect trans people, but it only affects trans women, as if they're the only ones that they don't see as valid. This feels like treating people like objects, and when they don't actually work within the paradigm you've designated for those particular objects, suddenly you've got issues. Claiming that being assigned male at birth makes one constrained to the category of a man and the so-called biology of maleness for their entire lives is tantamount to erasing the embodied and lived experiences of trans people. A woman who is trans is a woman, wrote the ACLU attorney Grace Strangio. Strangio? I do not know how to pronounce it. I am so sorry. In a Medium article about the GOP attempts to force transgender girls and women out of sports. And all the science we have demonstrates that not affirming trans and gender expansive kids and who they are results in catastrophic mental health consequences, including devastating rates of suicidality, which is true. Imagine being the type of person who probably goes, hey, you should probably not be trans because then you have a higher rate of suicide. Not even realizing that by being the asshole who says that thing, you inevitably end up creating those higher suicide rates. What a fucking coinkydink. Honestly, I think that this politician deserves a quick kick in the balls in Minecraft. Because realistically, if a motherfucker who looks like this is trying to determine whether or not somebody should be invasively looking at your genitals, I'm gonna have an issue. And it's not about the fact that I think he looks ugly as shit. I think I look ugly as shit. It's the fact that the last thing we need is more cishet white men telling people what they can and can't do if they're trans. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Back the fuck out, please. And this is just... I don't even want to say it's absolutely bonkers, but it is. This is another article about the same thing. Greg Stoops seeks to disqualify transgender women from women's sports, but it is going over many of the same things that were on over there. Just show me that this is not like a one and done article. This is a thing being covered by multiple areas. And I have a problem with this. I really do. Because when you constantly misgender and when you constantly try to invalidate people at that young an age and you don't let them properly explore who they are, then later on in life, you end up creating this scenario where this person is uncomfortable, where this person has a higher rate of suicidality, where this person is not in a good headspace, and it's all your fault. And you hide behind scapegoats like, the efficacy of sports, the importance of sports. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be fucking honest. We value sports way too fucking much. We do. I don't see a reason why you should hold a position that sports, a mere activity to a fucking game, is more important than somebody's identity. How do you hold the position that a game is more important than a living, breathing person? How do these things jive? Bills like this are never about protecting sports. They're about invalidating minorities. And it's gross. So, if you have any influence over this, if you have the ability to contact Greg Stoops or your Congress in any way, shape, or form to oppose predatory and shitty and harmful bills like this, then I suggest you do so. Engage in affirmative action. Engage in calling your representatives when shit like this is going down. Let your voice be heard. Do what you can to protect the people who need it most. With all that said, if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so that you can know when new episodes come out. And if you do have the wherewithal to, go ahead and check the description. You will find links to my Patreon and other areas where you can find me on social media or support me down in the links below. Also, Greg Stoops, if you want to go into the description of this video and find the link to DDLG Playground, where you will find any number of toys and dildos and such, you can use the coupon code Suris to get a dildo and go formally fuck yourself. 10% off, courtesy of me.